Hey, fellow golfers, this is Robbie from Best Ball. One of the most popular names in the golf accessory market today is Western Birch. Stop reaching in your pocket for boring plastic or plain white golf tees and elevate your game with premium wooden golf tees from Western Birch. You can customize both the hardwood and bamboo tees with one of their signature stripe patterns in a wide variety of colors. These tees are stylish enough to stand apart from the crowd, traditional enough to align with golf's heritage, and durable enough to make you forget about using anything else. Enter the code BESTBALL in the promo field in your shipping cart to add a free gift to your order. So visit westernbirch.com and get your own premium wood golf tees in the style that suits your game.
Hello and welcome to the Caddy Tales podcast. I am Mark the Caddy, joined as always by my sidekick, colleague, friend, and fellow looper Nick, and we're excited to talk to you about how the game of golf and the game of life so beautifully intersect. Before we do that, I do want to say thanks to our friends at Holderness and Bourne. Check out hbgolf.com. Type in the promo code BESTBALL to get yourself some free shipping and pick up some swag, especially if you need something as the months get a little cooler in your neck of the woods. They've got some really good stuff. I'm someone who doesn't like things snug to accentuate my physique, but also I don't like things hanging. And so I've really appreciated how Holderness and Bourne can tailor things in a way that makes it feel loose, but also not sloppily, just kind of hanging all over the place. So Holderness and Bourne, give them a look. All right, Nick, how you doing on this beautiful, fine Wisconsin sunny day?
Good, man. Yeah, a little chilly today, but we're hanging in there.
Yeah.
Also feeling a little refreshed after our nice little break we had this week.
Yeah.
3 days off due to a college tournament. So
Yeah, there's nothing that you needed more than 3 days off the last 2 weeks of the season, Nick. Way to finish strong.
it's not my fault.
Yes, for those listeners out there who didn't get the reference that Nick just made, we have on our course every mid to late October some sort of college tournament. I don't even know who's playing in it or what it is. And so they don't utilize caddies, and so we're off. A big group goes to Lawsonia Golf Course here in beautiful Wisconsin. This year, Nick and I both pulled out of that for various reasons, and we just kind of hung out around here, and I tried to get some work done on writing and planning for winter and all that kind of stuff. But we did get a few loops in this past week, not as many as usual or as we'd like or as we need. But what was your favorite moment during the week, Nick?
I had a father and son, and this is a interesting time of the year for us because our rates go down a little bit, and generally the tips go down a little bit too. But on the other hand, you're caddying for people that tend to enjoy playing the course more, don't always get like a chance to play a course of our level very often. So I had a father and son. They were very, very nice guys, and just kind of got along with them, and it was nice, and they enjoyed the course very much. Yeah.
All right, very good. Yeah, so there are those loops this time of year, people who are there because of a discounted rate. It's just very hit or miss right now. It's a different clientele, and in a lot of ways that's really good. And in some ways there's some frustrating loops. I was on one recently where it's clear the players don't go on events like this very often. And for one, it was such a bucket list for one of them that just extremely disrespectful when it came to pace of play and encouragements from us and others to speed it up to where it got kind of just uncomfortable on the loop. But also the bags. The other caddy had to carry a bag that I think was the heaviest bag I've ever seen a caddy carry.
Oh, no.
And I was thankful that he did it. And it's because they just don't do this as much. I want to put the best construction on things. Sometimes groups aren't that considerate. In this particular instance, they wouldn't get off the driving range until after we were supposed to be starting.
Oh, wow.
And so there was just no time to be able to go and empty things out. And so That was not necessarily my favorite moment of the week. Well, maybe my favorite moment was that he had to carry the bag because he went and jumped in front of me to snag it, thinking it would be the better one, I think. Or maybe in his own secret little devious, there's a heart in there kind of way. He knew it was the heavy one, and he was trying to save me from it. Perhaps that's the best construction that we should put on it. But,
sure, I'm sure that's it.
Yeah. No, I had a loop this last week. It was funny. Just below average players. I didn't have any loops this week where there was like extremely good golf. There was differing degrees of average and whatever, which is fine with me. That's not something that I get worked up about. Sometimes the below average players are the most fun and best to be out with. But in this particular loop, the player hadn't had any pars all round, picking up on most holes. And then on the par 3 17th hole, which is a long hole, they used too much club because they had no idea. Finally hit something straight and good. It ended up on the very back edge of the green, and it happened to be a day when the flag was way up in front. So I don't know what that putt is, 80 feet, 90 feet, Nick, you think?
Yeah, it's a long one. Yeah.
I mean, probably 30 yards. And they sink it, for crying out loud.
Wow.
For a birdie. And you're like,
gosh.
And it's just kind of like, and what I love too is the reaction. Like, it was a mix of excitement, being incredulous, shaking their head at what a dumb game it all is, kind of an understanding of what a beautiful thing it is. It was all these mixed little emotions in this little smirk, but it was a good pick-me-up as we ended the round, and a reminder that anything can happen. And there's a lot of serious good golfers who don't get to birdie that hole despite their best efforts and thinking about it. And this person got a memory for a long, long time. So that's really exciting. Speaking of memories, as we get to the end of the season here, I think it's good to just take a couple of shows here and look back. And today I want to talk to you about some of the things that were most memorable to us, maybe a shot that we saw, maybe a particular player, or just a loop in general, maybe something that we'd like to forget, and some things that we're never going to forget. So, is there anything off the top of your head that just jumps out as most memorable moment, or something that you think you just need to share with our listeners, Nick?
Yeah, I got the chance earlier this year to caddy for a couple kids who were D1 golfers, and they played from, I think, like 7,400 yards, and actually played really well. So, that was a fun loop for me. And they're great kids. We worked with them a lot, so that was a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, I was on that loop.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah. Well, it was obviously so memorable for me.
You were the least memorable part of that loop, yeah.
Right. No, that was good. And if it wasn't for the kind of tropical storm forced winds out there, the guy would have gone under, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. One of the kids was 3 under heading into 16, which is incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's good. I think this year what stands out, what I'm going to remember, is as a whole, is if you're just kind of talking general impressions, for me, I had worse golf than I've had in my previous years as a whole. Like, there were definitely some days where you're zigzagging the whole place, or there were just some people who just were new at golf, and it probably shouldn't have been a place that they were playing at just yet in their journey. And then I think the first couple of months of the season, there was a lot of rain and wind that contributed to it.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Was a number of days that were super, super windy out there where I just don't think anybody could play well. But if I was to kind of guess, I'd say it was worse golf. But with that doesn't mean it was a worse season. It just means that maybe, I personally didn't draw some of the better players this year. Now, I did get their permission to share it. One of the highlights for me was during the season, I got to caddy for somebody who's a little bit of a local legend around here, Sam Decker. He actually not only was a star at Wisconsin, but he went to the high school where my daughter currently goes and where my two oldest kids graduated from. And he fell on me. It wasn't like he reached out or had seen me online or anything like that. And so I was with him and some other, particularly successful people from the area.
I remember when you got assigned that loop, I was right next to you and you were like giddy about it. And I was like, wow, and
I didn't know what to expect. I just know that we followed his career since he was like in high school, because we weren't even living here yet, but we would come and visit on Christmas time. And there was a Christmas tournament that we went to where we watched him play, because we heard there's this kid, and this is a small 200-some kid high school. It usually doesn't have Division I level, recruits.
Yeah.
And so he was obviously known by everybody in this area. And then he became even more, he's forever known now because during they made it to the state championship game. And I can't remember how many points it was that they were down with like a minute to go, but it was a significant number. It wasn't like they were just down 1 or 2 baskets.
Yeah.
And he comes back and, and then he ends up winning the game on a pull-up 3 as time expires.
Like a fadeaway. Yeah, I remember that shot. Yeah, the viewers should look that up. That was pretty incredible, actually.
Yeah, you go on YouTube. It's like, it's all over the place. And so we've been following him. I've seen his parents around town. His dad still, referees youth basketball games that my son has been. So just salt of the earth type of family. And I thought, how awesome, because I'm the kind of guy, if I saw him at a restaurant, or I've seen him on the beach before this, working out and stuff, because he just lives, in Sheboygan on some of the off season.
Right on the lake, yeah.
And I'm not going to go up and bother him during that time, that his time is his own. And so I got to caddy for him. That was a real highlight for me. And, I have a chapter in my book that I talk about never beating your heroes because you don't want to be disappointed. I would say in this instance, I was, I found it to be a real joy. And, down-to-earth guy, talked about his career. And so I thought, what a great thing. There was one shot where he hurt his wrist because as his caddy, I'm like, I probably should have been paying attention to that. This is a guy with who needs his wrist. He needs his hands to be healthy for his career in professional basketball. And as all people often do, he hit, into the face of a bunker or whatever. And I remember the rest of the round, he's messing with his wrist. And I'm like,
dang,
oh my gosh, am I the caddy who's going to end the career? That was a memorable player and a memorable day. On a lesser known person scale, there's people who are just characters that jump out at me. There's one guy this year, though, in particular, who I had not too long ago, maybe 4 weeks ago, and he is simultaneously talking about some of the most profane, personal things.
Yeah.
While also talking to me very detailed about very complex financial market systems and the oil and gas energy and data centers and uranium and all these things that you kind of nod your head and smile as though you know what he's talking about. Or,
exactly.
Talking about these certain deals within the oil and gas energy field that he's making. And I'm like, wow, when would I ever meet somebody like this? This is super, super cool. But I thought it was fascinating that you'd literally be on the same hole and you'd go from some sort of disgusting comment that, you make when you're out with the boys, locker room talk, to very, very deep financial systems, which we're not this guy just kind of, you can tell the difference between a guy who actually knows what he's talking about and stuff versus somebody who's just got bravado or whatever, or his name dropping. And this guy knew what he was talking about. So, that's somebody who jumped out. Anybody in particular because of their persona that you had this year, Nick, that you're going to remember?
Yeah, I had a guy that was actually college roommates with Scott Van Pelt, and he was a swimmer at Maryland, and just one of the most unique characters I've ever met. He was Canadian, so he played with these balls that had the Canadian what the little maple leaf on it or whatever. And yeah, just an incredibly interesting human being and pretty enjoyable for me, to be honest. Those were always kind of fun loops.
Yeah, there was a guy walking in our group. He wasn't playing, but there was a corporate loop recently. And he was walking along with us for a number of holes. And I find out just in the course of conversation, he was on the rowing team in the Olympics. You know,
oh, yeah.
Not in the ones that just happened, but in a previous. And you're like, you know, I don't know. It's just so cool, like, to meet people like that. I've had and like sports you don't even think about. And so now I've met an Olympic rower. One time I had an Olympic curler. I mean, this niche sport that like you don't even realize that people do, except for maybe every 4 years during the Winter Olympics. And so then we're talking, you know, strategy for curling, and how cool is that?
I bet he was a pretty good putter, huh?
Yeah, right.
I mean,
I don't
it's
remember,
pretty similar.
But, yeah, I just think we get to meet some pretty cool people. You know, one of the questions, and we don't want to name any names. Like I said, the person whose name I dropped before, I did have his permission to share. But, you know, did you have, we get asked a lot, you know, who's the most famous person that you caddied for? Was this a year where you had some athletes or some people of note? For me, it wasn't. I'm trying to remember if there was many.
Yeah, I mean, we had that one where we caddied for the hockey kids. Those were nice kids.
Yeah, so like in my year-end summary that I'm going to put out on Twitter soon, the name of the year goes to Angus Crookshank. You know, I mean, come on. But you know what? Now that you bring that up, Nick, just like on opening night of hockey season, I actually Googled him to see if he got called up to the big team. So it's like you meet these people, you caddy for them, and now all of a sudden I'm invested in this guy's career in the Ottawa Senators system, you know. And then I'm in, you know, you go down the rabbit hole and I'm watching interviews from when he scored his first NHL goal. And then remembering that cool Canadian accent, and then you know, because there's nobody better than Canadian hockey players as far as like the let's go boys,
things they say is like
goal, and so that was cool. And what else?
I had I mean, not many athletes, but I guess like somewhat famous people. I had a guy that ran for governor. That was pretty interesting.
Yeah, we had the Republican National Convention in the area, so various people from that kind of life made their way out. I never ended up having anyone related to that, and I think I'm happy about it.
I heard a horror story from that one where one of the players like hit a caddy with a club or something.
Oh yeah. That's right. Nobody who is your elected official, people. So don't worry about that. I'm sure you have all decent, honest, upstanding people in elected positions. So I think this was a staffer of some sort.
I'm sure they played by the rules and everything. I'm sure.
Yeah, right.
No cheating.
I find that when you have like government people like that it's not even fun because they're like always glad handing people and like unless they're having to do it to win a vote or something. I just don't think they want to anymore. So like I haven't found them to be extremely engaging with the caddies. I had a few athletes this year. There was a number. What I did see this year, and that I'll remember, and it's a sign of where I think golf is going from a television perspective, is there was a lot of influencers out on the course this year.
I was just thinking that. Yeah, there's a lot of the YouTubers and stuff like that.
Yeah. And so I will read articles about how golf viewership is down, you know, one year to the next and such. And I think that what's happening, and I see this because I have a 12-year-old son in my house, is that generation, and certainly a little older than that, just aren't watching full-form, lengthy
tournaments and stuff,
of any sport. You know, look at something like the NBA that kids love. My son doesn't want to come down and sit and watch a full Bucks game with me, and yet he can name every player on the Bucks, every player in the NBA. You know, but I think they're learning it through their PS5s. I think they're learning it through YouTube. And YouTube is huge. And so I especially, though, see that happening in golf. I think golf is growing in popularity. And certainly you see that in the numbers of people playing the course. But even I think in viewership, it's just happening through these influencers on social media in a lot of cases. And I think that bears itself out. I mean, they were coming out in droves this year.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like they've got a group of people that'll play golf, and they'll play it for every kind of demographic that you could have. Like, you know, your 35-year-old guys that like getting drunk on the course and, you know, just having some fun. You got, you know, really good, you know, +1 handicappers, you know, taking it very seriously and hitting great shots and stuff. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, we had a big group out there for this season. Tori Totlis, check her out, guys, online. She has a great podcast herself, and I was able to be a guest on it even. So, yeah, check her out, Tori Totlis. And she is kind of a leading voice in women's golf. And she runs trips all over. I see she just got back from Scotland. But we had a 2-day one. And so this brings up somebody who's I'm going to remember for a long time. I had this sweet lady who I would guess was 70s plus, you know, like I don't think she was in her 60s if I was guessing. So she was the oldest person in the group for sure. And at first I'm kind of like laughing and shaking my head because she had an index card that she would pull out before almost every shot.
Okay.
And she had how far it went, like in the air, how far it would roll out, whatever. And she even had it to where I remember vividly, there was one shot that was 21 yards. She had me just off the green, and she still had me laser it. And then she pulls out, and it's like she's got that distance. And it's like, do she swing hip to hip or what? And so she gets it. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. In my head, she puts it like a foot away from the hole. So I'm like, okay. Well, anyway, her swing fell apart on the back nine.
Oh, no.
And, like, every bit as frustrated as a young grinder guy that we see on a lot of days. Like, just absolutely in her head, frustrated. And so I was 4-caddying that day, and on that course, we get driven back by a cart from the 18th hole back to the bag drop and clubhouse. And to do that, you have to drive past the driving range. She just yells, "Let me off!" And she just grabs her clubs, yanks it, jumps off the back of the cart to go grind at the range after her round. I'm like, I cannot believe this for a lady.
How does she have that much energy?
I know.
Holy
I know.
cow.
And I just thought, you know, what awesome. She found, because I don't think she was a long-time player. I think it's something she probably got into like after she became widowed, or if maybe she was divorced. I don't know what. I know she was single or whatever. And she got into it later in life. And now she's just passionate about it. And from what I understand, she hit it much better the next day. So
nice. I want to see you do that someday. Like after you have a bad round of golf, go to the range afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Can't imagine.
I probably will not. I had a guy this year that I'll remember because he just doesn't look the part, but man, he was fun. I was just on a single bag, and I can't remember if it was just me and him or no, it was a group of 3. And he ended up playing the blue tees because the other guys or that's where they agreed on. Now, one of the guys should have been up at the white tees. You know how that goes. Yeah, 800 less yards should have been up at. But then my guy is the one player that I had all season where I'm like, I screwed up by not having this guy on the tips.
Yeah.
And he hit it too far for, what was it, 7,100, 7,200 yards?
Yeah, 71 and change, yeah.
Yeah. He hit it too far for that golf course. But what was really funny was he shows up and he's got like no neck. He's like this former bodybuilder, so he's just like, ripped.
Yeah.
Whatever. Tattooed from neck to toe.
Whew.
And so he doesn't look like any of the golfers that we normally get.
Not usually, yeah.
Yeah. But then he was also the vice president of some significant company. And so, like, how awesome, man. Like,
Yeah.
this is a totally eclectic guy. And, oh my gosh. So, on our 18th hole, there's a ravine. And usually, if you have a long hitter, you have them go, there's two kind of fairways, a split fairway, and you'll have people hit left if they really want to use their driver. Because at about, depending on which tee box you're doing, on the right side, it runs out, 240 yards from the white tees and a little longer as you get back. Anyway, so we're way back at the blue tees. My guy still hits it over all the stuff on the left and into the ravine.
My gosh.
I'm like, I didn't even know this was possible, man. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, I legit did not know it was possible.
That's like 310 at least.
Yeah, and it was no trouble getting into it. He actually hit some drives 350. And, like, this is coming from a guy who does not believe that people 90% of the time hit it as far as they say they hit it. And so this was another guy who, when we meet at the, bag drop, he's, how far do you drive the ball? 315, 330. And you're like, come on, in your head. And he might have been underselling himself on some shots.
Wow.
And so then I'm like, it was kind of cool though, because he was a cool guy. And this was something I learned about caddying that day. We were on one hole where it was the fourth hole, so things weren't completely worked out yet as far as understanding just how far he could hit it. And I took him on a line that was it was too much for him. I mean, it wasn't enough for him, I should say. He hit it, whatever, and he ends up in some junk. And so he's a little bit disappointed. And I just say, I'm sorry, man. Like, this is on me. So it was good to learn, just apologize, just take responsibility for it instead of making some excuse, and you're going to have a much better day.
Yeah. That's man, I can't believe how far that guy must have hit it.
So that's another memory that I'm going to have this year, is that while I think overall I probably drew players that weren't as good as usual, I had probably 5 guys this year who hit the ball over 300 yards.
Wow.
And that gets to one more memorable shot that I'll share. And this is just kind of like, hey, now every time I'm on this course, I'm going to look at this bunker and think about it. Guy missed it on the 8th hole of the Irish course, ends up in this bunker where he shanks it into kind of on his drive. And he's like, there's a creek in front of it. And he's like, how far do we got? And I think like 100% of the time in my caddy career, when somebody was kind of where he's at, whether in the bunker or just that distance, that question has referred to how far do we got to get over the creek. And so I go to give him that number, and he's like, no, the pin. And we were 265 yards away, and he's in a bunker. And without hesitation, he grabs his 3-wood and puts it pin high. Gosh. Like another shot that I didn't think was possible. So it happens, and it's like it's super fun to be out there. And so I'll take that with me. But literally every time now I caddy on that course and I'm on that hole, I walk past that bunker and I think about that shot. Just like,
it's incredible.
People have those experiences in their own game. Maybe if they go back to a course that they've played before and had something memorable happen. So,
is that the same guy that drove 17's green on the Irish? I remember you telling me that
from the blue
too.
tees with a 3-wood.
That's insane.
Yeah.
God, you had some.
There was one
some bombers
on the 14th hole. And I felt bad because another guy in the group that day, this was a different guy. There was this is one of the other 300-plus hitters. One guy hit it towards, there's some bunkers that are 300-some yards away, and one guy hit it, to them.
Yeah, and, I know what you're talking about. Wow.
But then my guy hit it 20 yards further. And I'm like, how terrible that this guy just hit a 300-yard some drive, and then my guy's way up here. I mean, it was, so yes, there was obviously the technology and maybe the way people are practicing and training and stuff is creating some distance
YouTube tutorials.
Yeah. I mean, so yeah, whereas I still think the vast majority of players don't hit it as far as they think they do, I did see some real bombers this year.
Jeez.
Yeah.
It's incredible. Yeah, I I didn't have anyone that was like extremely long this year, but I had some decent players. I had one guy that shot even from the blues, so that was pretty good.
Yeah, yeah. People will ask, and there's inners mixed in a lot of average loops. When I say average, I'm not even using that as a negative term. Yeah, there are some that are just they could shoot 200, and then there are some where they could shoot, par or under.
Yeah.
And so, but the vast majority, I don't know. People ask me this: if I was to say, what's the score that if you had to pick is the average score for out there, recognizing it's all over the place, and you really, I would say like 92 to 95.
Literally was going to say probably about the same thing, like low 90s. Yeah.
Yeah.
I always say too, like if you can break 80 at our course, like you're probably a really, really good player.
Yeah. So why is it then? That's something I'm also going to remember from this year. Just like in previous years, I've remembered that the number that people always give when you ask them how far can they drive the ball, a lot of times it's 280 is just kind of the number that gets thrown out. Now I have found that when people are talking about their expectations for the day, they want to break 80. And I'm like, it's hard because I was literally out with a guy this year who it was his first time playing this year. And he was on a corporate loop and he had it in his head. He was going to break 80. And there was nothing I was going to be able to say or do to get him to understand with a 30-mile-an-hour wind like we had that day, he wasn't breaking 80.
So after like the first two holes when he's like 7 over, he's not like adjusting expectations?
Never conceded. And we got to some creative scoring, like when he hit balls in the water or whatever. We didn't. I think he must not have been counting those after a while because there was no way we were anywhere near 80. But, you know how people are. They get these arbitrary numbers in their head and they mean something to them. And then there are others like who were in that group that day who I don't even think they kept score or needed to keep score. They were just there for, hey, man, my work is paying for me to be here, and we're going to have some cocktails, and we're going to enjoy it like crazy. So you never know what you're going to get, and that's an enduring memory that I'll take with me every season. Nick, the other thing that I'm going to take with me is as I grow older, as I become weaker, I don't know what it is, I'm so thankful. Like, we're going to close the season this year with some really good weather, it looks like.
Yeah.
I'm a baby about the weather. I don't like it. The start of the season, I will always remember as just rain and wind.
Misery.
That's all it was, the first 2 months. And then, other than a 3-day stretch in like July, end of July, maybe early August, it really hasn't rained since. But that 3-day stretch is something I'm going to remember.
Yeah.
I was on a loop on a Friday. We're on the 17th hole. Guys have their phones out with the weather thing up. I don't know what time it was, 1:30. Nothing on the radar. It says on there, rain to begin after 6 p.m. By the time we were in the 18th fairway, the 18th green was underwater, and I legit fell down in the fairway on 18 like it was a slip and slide.
Oh, wow.
That's how fast it came in. Like 2 inches of rain in like 40 minutes.
Oh, no.
And so then Saturday, I can't remember how I missed it or if I didn't work that day for whatever reason. I don't remember that one. No. That was a Thursday that had. No, that was a Friday. And so then the next day, Saturday, I'm out with guys. They had been out on bad weather on Thursday. That's what it was. I didn't miss it. And I remember caddies texting me during that day saying, who had been there for like 13, 14, 15 years, saying, top 5 weather, worst day of my career. So there's Thursday. Then that Friday I just mentioned. Then Saturday I'm with guys who had been planning this trip for a year and a half. And I'm just heartbroken for them because their loop on Thursday got cut short. Their loop on Friday got cut short. And then Saturday we're out with them. And we get to the 14th hole. And we're thinking, well, we're going to make it. We're just racing it because we knew it was coming. We ended up quitting on the 14th hole. And by the time we're walking in, water shin deep. And I've never seen 3 days of rain come in like that. It was unbelievable. And then I'll always remember that where most people quit, not a lot of people quit, but this was so excessive that this was a time where most people quit, but there were still people who played all 18 holes. What would you be? Which category would you be in?
I hope I would quit, but I also kind of know myself, and I might try to keep playing. So I guess we'll have to see. I know what category you're falling in.
I would quit, and I would go in and enjoy a warm drink and fellowship with my brothers who also had good senses about them. Yeah. No, that I get it that people would do it, but hey, another memorable season in the books.
Absolutely.
A lot of great memories, and so we're really thankful for it, and thankful for all you who came out. I would be remiss if I didn't mention that what I'll remember the most is the chance to meet so many people that either listen to the Caddy Tales podcast or follow Caddy Tales on Twitter. And you got to come along on a number of those loops as well, Nick.
I remember the first time I saw somebody like say, "Oh my gosh, is that Mark the Caddy?" I almost like died laughing.
Yes. Now, will you please let people know out there that I'm pretty sheepish and embarrassed about it when that happens?
No, you are.
Do I big time anyone?
No, you don't. You're pretty humble, actually. That hurts to admit, but you are pretty humble.
Because I want to say it's weird. It's extremely flattering and stuff that people take the time to spend a minute or two of their day following stuff, and we hope that you provide value to their life in some small way. I mean, we're not curing cancer here, but not everybody can do that, and so we talk golf, and it's a joy to be able to have had these people come out, and there's been different degrees, like where I'm like, okay, there's somebody who's coming out who this has been like something circled on their calendar for a year, and then there's been others who are like, do you even actually follow me on Twitter? Like, how did you find? Because they they messaged me and asked, will you come with us? And then like seemingly knew nothing about me or
they had like a 14 slot bag or something.
Yeah, right. Yeah, actually, I'm caddying for a guy tomorrow who follows me, and he texted me that his dad has a 14 slot bag, and I'm like,
oh wow, did he tell you to change it out?
Anyway. Yeah, I'll try to like him anyway. But yeah, how cool! Like just yesterday, I went out to the bag drop, and Stubbo-matic, shout out to you. He was standing there. He was about to go play riding carts on the other course, and he came up and he introduced himself to me, and kind of cool, kind of fun. So if you're ever around, please come say hi to Nick too. Come say hi to me, and we love to share golf with you. And you are not only making memories for yourself by coming out on filling your bucket, crossing something off your list, but you are also making memories for us. We get to work, we get to provide for ourselves and our families, and yet we also get so much out of it. All right, Nick, we'll look back a little more on the season next week, but before we get going today, in the few loops that we have, any good caddy, bad caddy moments that you want to share? Good caddy, what'd you do?
I had a loop yesterday that wasn't the most exciting of all time, but I hung in there, tried to be personable, and I think I did a pretty good job with that.
Yeah, I was searching for a ball on the 8th hole.
Yes.
When Nick and another caddy came, and I was not necessarily enjoying my loop as much as other times, and you just looked at me like, ha 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 ha.
Yeah, we were all laughing at you, yeah.
Yeah, but those nice ladies you were with gave me they said hello, and
we said hey Mark, and they said hey Mark, and it was a cool little moment.
Yeah, right, and I remember thinking, I'd kind of rather be with them, because I knew at least it would be easy, for ladies like that. They're only coming to a course like ours if they know how to hit it up the middle or whatever. So
yeah.
My guy did not know how to hit it up the middle.
I noticed. Yeah, I noticed by the fact that you were by our tee box on that hole.
But very nice guy. Very nice guy. So,
okay.
All right. For me, a good caddy moment. I'm just going to fall on the sword and say nothing really jumps out as spectacular this week, and I'll go right to my bad caddy moment. And say yesterday was a grind, and we were playing very slow, and there was no group in front of us. As a matter of fact, the group in front of us ended up finishing like more than 2 holes in front of us.
Mm-hmm.
So we could have, flown. We ended up being 5.5 hours, but I knew they were stressed behind us because of some people on the course. They wanted groups to keep moving. So I was kind of pushing these guys a bit. And I would have anyway, because, like, come on.
I think
guys.
that's a good caddy moment right there.
Yeah,
like,
well,
being able to tell the players.
Maybe. And actually, I do get a little bit frustrated from time to time that it seems to be that I'm always the caddy that the other caddy's looking forward to. Communicate with the players, like Mark, come on, you talk to the players better. Whatever. I don't think that's always true. I just think it's a crutch. But I'm happy to step up. So, yeah, maybe a good caddy moment in that I actually care about the course and the people behind us and pace of play, whatever. But they didn't care. And it became clear that there was nothing we were going to be able to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I probably told them to speed up one too many times for one guy's taste. And so then the rest of the round, he got kind of sassy and cocky about it. And, it's just one of those things where you're like, I don't know. You're trying to put yourself in their shoes, but you're also hoping that they kind of put themselves in other people. And I'm like, in my former life, maybe I had to spend more time working on these types of issues and trying to help people and whatever. Yesterday, I should have just been like, hey, it is what it is. I'm not going to change these guys in the 5 hours I'm with them.
Yeah.
And just shut up, grin and bear it, and go.
Sounds like you needed an aggressive marshal at that point, huh?
Yeah, actually, at one point, though, I went up to the marshal and said, do not tell them to speed up because it's getting tense.
Oh, really?
And, yeah, because I had just,
I would have said, tell them.
Yeah, right. Yeah, there's a guy who is a big follow on Twitter, Top 100 Rick. And
I remember him.
Yeah, he's got a pretty big following. We caddy for him. And he just posted this last week that everybody thinks that they're a fast golfer. Does anyone say they're a slow golfer? And I said, every person I've ever caddied for thinks they're the fast golfer. So I'm like, I'm not even going to tweet about it because, one, I don't want to, like, humiliate anybody. But, two, I'm like, all you're going to do is get a bunch of self-righteous posts from people saying, if you play bad, or if you play fast, if you play bad, play faster. I'm like, everybody, 100%. Nobody has ever once come up to me and said, hello, nice to meet you. Just to let you know, we play really slow.
Yeah.
We're really bad, but we also play really slow. No, they always come up and say we're bad, but we play fast. Yeah. So, yeah, maybe a little mix of a good caddy, bad caddy moment. But it's kind of like there's still – I've worked on myself so much the last 5-6 years, and I used to be such a control freak and
not you.
Yeah, and I'd want to I'd want to change certain behaviors in people so much that it ended up doing was impacting my behavior and turning me into a monster.
Yeah.
And I saw just a little glimpse of, like, that's mostly kicked out of me. I saw a little glimpse of it when it's like, okay, these people are just ignoring us right now.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay. So then on the back nine, me and another caddy are like, just, okay, shut up and let's just grin and bear it. And so we just went on and finished. So, all right, Nick, really, really fun talking about this. We hope you guys out there enjoyed it. And yes, to answer a question that I get, we are going to be continuing the Caddy Tales podcast throughout the off season. We're going to be getting some more guests on with us during the off season so that we have a little more diverse area of topics to cover and introduce you to some people who we think will be interesting. So I know Nick is looking for a slew of guests even as we speak. And until then, though, I do want to remind you the greatest truth that I know, and that is this: no matter how many misses, no matter how many shanks, no matter how out of bounds or how deep the bunker, when you're on this side of the ground, whether in life, or I should say whether in golf, but most especially in life, there is always a next shot. So take yours.